Still yield.
Thank you. Representative Morgan, just a few questions here. First question, did the working group talk about if we would prosecute criminals who commit a crime, would that reduce gun violence?
We broadly talked about a variety of criminal enforcement and criminal penalties and what is existing law and the things we can improve.
And did that go anywhere? Is there anything changed in our legislation that addresses that in particular?
Again, this legislation has a variety of elements that will address our existing laws. As I noted earlier, there are a variety of things in existing law that we could do a better job with implementing, and I concede that.
I agree 100%. It's how do we get after that? How do we get after the prosecution side? Too many times a crime is committed with a gun and then that gun is washed off of those charges. So I think that's something we need to get after too. Will this reduce or eliminate illegal street gun sales? Is there anything in this legislation that will do that?
The Illinois State Police, as you may know, have over the last couple years really increased their enforcement of interstate trafficking of illegal guns. That is not just the Illinois State Police. It's not even just a federal DOJ ATF issue. That's a local law enforcement issue. So this legislation really is going to convene a strike force throughout the state, making sure that our borders are guarded from interstate trafficking of guns, but also really requires cooperation from law enforcement. So yes, it really addresses that issue.
And are the provisions still in this bill restricting law enforcement officers to carrying their sidearm when they're not on duty?
It does not.
So that was changed in one of the previous amendments?
Legislation never restricted the carrying of the sidearm. There was language that wasn't as clear as it should have been to reflect my intent to make sure that active duty law enforcement officers would continue to be able to hold their service weapons and the magazines in which they need to use them.
Is there any financial impact within this legislation?
The most obvious answer to that we've asked the Illinois State Police about is the implementation of changes to the online FOID system. That is still a moving estimate from the Illinois State Police, but the last estimate I believe was about $150,000.
$150,000 and
forgive me, $500,000.
Was anything looked at, or did you do any research on the manufacturing side of this? Some of the impacts it's going to cause some of our businesses. Within my district, I have several gun manufacturers and parts manufacturers that are going to be impacted.
We did. And in fact, due to directly the conversation we had in executive committee, we did make a change, as discussed earlier with Leader Wheeler, changing our manufacturing language to make sure the Illinois manufacturers continue to be able to manufacture and then sell to other states and law enforcement officers.
Okay, thank you. And Mr. Speaker, I'll wrap this up on this final comment if I can, please. Based upon the research I found, from 2001 to 2012, 50,000 guns were seized by Chicago Police Department. More than half of those were purchased out of state, or 6 out of every 10 guns are purchased out of state, with the majority of those coming from Indiana, Mississippi, and Wisconsin. So that's why I addressed some of the illegal street gun sales and some of those other items that need to be focused on as far as